My name is Harry. I am 32 years old and I am a software engineer. I would like to share my story with you, a story of love, betrayal, and self-discovery. 4 years ago, Kathy and I met at a friend's wedding. She was the maid of honor and I was the best man. I clearly remember the moment I first saw her. She was wearing a long lavender dress and her hair was elegantly coiffed, revealing her long neck. Her smile was so warm and her eyes were pure and bright. We talked for a long time at the wedding and realized we had a lot in common. We both loved to hike, especially in the woods in the fall. We both loved to try new recipes and create delicious meals in the kitchen. We both loved to watch classic movies and have long discussions about them. We quickly fell in love. Our dating days were full of romance and surprises. We went hiking together and climbed to the top of a mountain to watch the sunrise. We cooked in the kitchen together and tried Thai and French food. We watched movies together on the couch. Kathy was an elementary school teacher at the time, and she used to share interesting stories about her students with me. Her eyes were always full of love and patience for the children. A year later, we were married. The wedding took place in a beautiful vineyard. The sun shone brightly, and the air was filled with the scent of roses and grapes. We made vows, promising to love each other and to stay together until death do us part. After we got married, we planned our future together. We decided to enhance our knowledge and skills by pursuing a master's degree, and Kathy chose educational psychology, as she wanted to understand children's psychology and behavior better and become a better teacher. I chose computer science, hoping to make a breakthrough in the field of artificial intelligence. Despite our busy academic schedules, we still support each other. We go to the library together, discuss each other's papers, and cheer each other on. However, as time went on, I began to notice some subtle changes, and Kathy began to work more often staying late at school. At first, I didn't think much of it when she said she had to prepare for exams and papers. Gradually, it became more and more frequent. One time, I went to pick her up from school and found that the building was almost dark, but only the light in her office was still on. When she came out, I noticed that her clothes were a bit messy and her hair was a bit disheveled, which did not match her usual neat image. Kathy's behavior became more erratic. She began to go out more often, sometimes even staying out at night. She always said she was studying with her classmates or attending an academic seminar. But when I asked for specifics, she was evasive and seemed to be hiding something. One weekend, she said she had to attend a seminar on educational psychology and needed to go out of town for 2 days. But when I called the seminar venue, I found that there was no such seminar. Kathy's dressing style has also changed. She went from simple and plain to more fashionable and sexy. She started buying expensive makeup, from Chanel to Dior, and her vanity table was filled with all kinds of designer makeup. She also frequently bought luxury goods, from LV handbags to Gucci high heels, which contrasted with our previous frugal lifestyle. Once, I accidentally saw a credit card statement and realized that she had spent nearly $20,000 on luxury items in 1 month, which was far beyond our income level. What bothered me even more was that Kathy began refusing to be intimate with me for various reasons. In the past, our sex life had always been harmonious and an important part of our relationship. But now, Kathy always said she was too tired or had important homework to finish. Even during our few intimate moments, I felt that she seemed distracted and in a hurry to get it over with. The frequency of our sex life went from a couple of times a week to once a month, and finally to almost nothing. My instincts told me something was wrong, but I didn't want to believe that my wife would betray me. I tried to find opportunities to communicate with her, but she always avoided talking about it, or simply used some excuses. Until one day, things finally became clear. That afternoon, Kathy said she was going to the library to study and might be late. When I called the library, it was closed for the holiday. I had a bad feeling. I drove to the school and found Kathy's car parked outside the building. I walked into the building and found only one office with the lights on, that of Professor Tony, Kathy's master's advisor, a middle-aged man in his late 50s. I approached the office gently and looked in through the doorway. When I did, I froze in my tracks. I saw Kathy and Tony embracing. They were kissing and kissing hard. Kathy's clothes were half off and Tony's hand was on her leg. I couldn't breathe and my heart was pounding. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I stormed into the office and asked them what was going on. Kathy panicked and explained that it wasn't what I thought it was. Tony was calm and told me that he and Kathy were in love and that it had been going on for a couple of months. My world came crashing down at that moment. I felt angry, sad, desperate, and confused. I didn't understand how our marriage had come to this. We were so in love. I thought we would be together forever. But now, everything has changed. The shadow of betrayal hangs over me, and I don't know how to face this cruel reality. I ran out the door and drove aimlessly around the city for hours. The image of Kathy and Tony kissing kept replaying in my mind, stabbing me in the heart like a knife. I remembered how we met, fell in love, got married, and the dreams and plans we shared, all of which now seemed so ironic and hypocritical. Love, once the most beautiful and true part of my life, has now become the biggest lie. I don't know how to face this betrayal. I don't know whether our marriage can continue. I felt lost and helpless, as if I were drifting in a sea, with no direction and no hope. This discovery was like a bolt from the blue, destroying my trust in love and my hope for marriage. I knew that my life would change forever, and I was not ready to face this change. Upon discovering Kathy's betrayal, my world came crashing down. I was overwhelmed with shock, anger, and sadness. I could not believe that my beloved wife, the love of my life, had betrayed me. The fact that she had betrayed me was like a sharp knife that stabbed me in the heart and caused me excruciating pain. I began to question myself. Was I not good enough? Was my love for her not deep enough? I began to recall every moment since we met, trying to find out why our relationship broke up. But no matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't understand Kathy's behavior. Our marriage seemed perfect. We had common interests, common dreams. We always supported and encouraged each other. I thought our love could withstand any test, but now it seems that it was all in my head. At first, I was filled with jealousy and anger. I couldn't accept my wife being hugged and kissed by another man. Whenever I closed my eyes, the image of Kathy and Tony kissing came to my mind. This image was like a nightmare that tormented me repeatedly, keeping me awake at night and making me unable to eat. I felt betrayed, cheated, and my trust in Kathy was completely destroyed. At one point, I wanted to file for divorce immediately and end this marriage that was causing me so much pain. I even began to think about how to divide our property, how to deal with our house and car. But when I saw Kathy crying, and when I thought of the good times we had, my heart softened. I decided to give her a chance to explain herself and give our marriage a chance to be saved. So, I tried to talk to Kathy. I wanted her to give me a reasonable explanation, even if it was a lie, as long as she could convince me that she had not really cheated on me. But every conversation ended in an argument, and Kathy was always too evasive to answer my questions positively. When I asked her if she loved Tony, she was silent. When I asked her why she betrayed me, she cried and said she didn't know. Her reaction made me more confused and angry. Our arguments became more and more frequent and intense. I remember once, after a particularly heated argument, I slammed the door and walked aimlessly through the streets for the rest of the night. My heart began to be at war. Reason told me that a woman who betrayed me was not worthy of my love, but my feelings told me that I couldn't just give up on our marriage and the vows we had made. I love Kathy, and that's a fact that can't be changed. I can't imagine my life without her, but at the same time, I don't know if I can trust her again. Her betrayal is a thorn in my side, a constant reminder of my pain. I started to escape from reality and buried myself in my work. I began to work overtime frequently, sometimes even overnight, because it was only when I was working that I could forget my inner pain for a while. I began to alienate my friends because I didn't know how to explain my situation to them. I started to drink alcohol because it was the only thing that could numb me for a while. I knew this was not the way to go, but I couldn't seem to find any other way out. Kathy seemed to realize the seriousness of the problem. She began to try to make amends by being very pleasant to me. She started learning to cook my favorite dishes, and she started inviting me out on dates, just like she did when we first fell in love. But all these actions seemed so hypocritical to me. The trust between us was broken, and it couldn't be repaired with a few meals and a few dates. Eventually, we started a Cold War. Although we still lived under the same roof, we hardly talked to each other. We were like two strangers living in our own worlds. This Cold War lasted for a few weeks. My heart became more and more empty, more and more confused. I kept asking myself if I should continue the marriage, whether I could still forgive Kathy for her betrayal. But every time I thought of divorce and the vows we had made, I hesitated. I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't just keep running away. I had to face reality, no matter how harsh it was. I had to find a way out, whether it led to the repair of my marriage or the end of it. But I wasn't ready. I needed time to think, to weigh the pros and cons. Just when my marriage with Kathy was in a cold war and I was struggling to end the relationship, an unexpected event occurred. This incident was like a fuse that completely ignited our fragile marriage and made me determined to end the relationship. That afternoon, I was walking our dog Romeo, an Alaskan that Kathy and I adopted together during our first year of marriage, in the park. Romeo has always played an important role in our marriage. He is not only our pet, he is a member of our family. We have fed him, trained him, and watched him grow from a mischievous puppy to a big, powerful dog. As I was strolling along the path in the park, lost in my own thoughts, I suddenly heard a scream. I looked up and saw Kathy hugging a man under a tree not far away. The man was Tony, Kathy's lover. I was furious at this scene. I stormed over to them and shouted at them, asking what they were doing. Kathy's face turned pale when she saw me. She pushed Tony away in a panic and tried to explain, but I couldn't listen to any more of her explanations. In my eyes, her embrace with Tony in the park was another betrayal to me and another blasphemy to our marriage. I angrily yelled at Tony to leave my wife immediately, but Tony didn't seem to care about my anger. He laughed scornfully and said that Kathy didn't love me anymore and that I should just accept it. His words were like a knife in my heart. I couldn't control my emotions and went up to him and grabbed him by the collar. At that moment, Romeo, who had been watching from the sidelines, suddenly attacked Tony and lunged at him, biting his arm. Tony screamed in pain and tried to free himself from Romeo's attack, but Romeo's teeth were deeply embedded in his flesh and blood was pouring out. Tony screamed in pain and tried to free himself from Romeo's attack, but Romeo's teeth were deeply embedded in his flesh and blood was pouring out. Seeing that the situation was not right, I rushed forward and tried to pull Romeo away, but Romeo seemed to have fallen into some kind of rage. No matter how much I called him, he refused to let go of his mouth. Eventually, with the help of passers-by, we were able to pull Romeo away from Tony. But Tony's arm had been bitten to a bloody pulp, and his injuries were quite serious. He covered his wounds and turned white with pain. He pointed angrily at Romeo and me and said he would make us pay. The incident quickly turned into a legal battle, with Tony suing me and Romeo for his medical expenses and emotional distress. He claimed that Romeo's attack was premeditated and that I directed Romeo to attack him. I, on the other hand, must be held responsible for my dog's behavior. I felt aggrieved and angry in the face of such an accusation. I know that Romeo's attack was motivated by his instinct to protect his owner. As a well-trained dog, Romeo is extremely protective of his owner. He attacked Tony because he sensed my anger and hostility and because he wanted to protect me. But none of that seems to matter in the eyes of the law. In the eyes of the law, I was responsible for Romeo's behavior, even if it was well-intentioned. In order to deal with the lawsuit, I had to hire an attorney. My attorney, an experienced criminal defense attorney, told me that we were facing a difficult case. On the one hand, Romeo did hurt Tony, and we were responsible for that. But on the other hand, Tony's behavior prior to the incident was questionable, and his embrace with my wife was socially unacceptable. If we can prove that Romeo's attack was in self-defense and to protect his owner, then we may have a chance. In the following days, I devoted myself to this case. I collected evidence, prepared my defense, and put almost all my time and energy into this case. In the process, I gradually realized that this case was not only for Romeo, but also for myself. I've seen a lot of things through this. I saw Kathy's betrayal of me and the fragility of our marriage. What is the point of our marriage if we can't even walk the dog without her cuddling with her lover? I couldn't go on like this. I couldn't go on living a life of lies and betrayal. I began to seriously consider divorce. I knew that it would be a difficult decision, not only because of the vows we had made, but also because of our shared assets and responsibilities. But I knew I had to do it. For my own sake, and for the sake of my future, I had to end this marriage that was causing me so much pain. The incident with Romeo made me make up my mind. It was like a wake-up call to my inner voice. I could no longer run away. I could no longer hesitate. I had to face reality and make a choice. And my choice was to end the marriage and start a new life. After much deliberation, I have decided to end my marriage to Kathy. This decision was not made on impulse, but after a long period of struggle and weighing. Through this painful experience, I realized that my marriage with Kathy had come to an end. Her betrayal and lies have completely destroyed my confidence in the marriage. Continuing to do so would only make each other more miserable. After I made the decision to divorce, I immediately began to deal with the various legal procedures. I contacted an experienced divorce attorney who was able to help me with issues such as property division. Kathy and I had a substantial amount of community property, including a house with a market value of $2 million, two automobiles totaling $150,000, and about $500,000 in savings and investments. We need to decide how to divide these assets and how to deal with our debts and taxes. The divorce process was far more complicated and lengthy than I had imagined. My attorney and I had to scrutinize every asset and debt, assess their value, and come up with a division plan. We also had to consider special factors such as our pension plan, insurance claims, etc. Every detail had to be carefully discussed and negotiated. Which often left me feeling exhausted. Kathy and I had some disagreements about the division of property, and Kathy argued that she should get more property and savings, considering the time and effort she had put into the marriage. But I insisted that we should divide all the property fairly in accordance with the law. Every negotiation we had was like a heated argument, which was physically and mentally exhausting. In addition to property issues, we also had to deal with a number of other legal issues, such as determining tax liabilities and updating insurance beneficiaries. These issues, although relatively minor, required a lot of time and effort. I had to communicate frequently with lawyers and accountants, provide all kinds of documents and certificates, and sometimes felt that my life was completely occupied by lawsuits and paperwork. At the same time, I had to face Romeo's lawsuit, and although my lawyer thought we had a good chance of winning, I was still anxious. Although my attorney believes we have a good chance of winning, I am still anxious that Romeo did cause some injuries during his attack on Tony, which may make our defense difficult. But I firmly believe that Romeo's behavior was motivated by his instinct to protect his owner, not by any premeditated attack. I hope the judge will understand this and give Romeo a fair sentence. To prepare for the case, my lawyer and I met for hours almost every day to go over the facts of the case and prepare the defense. We gathered a lot of evidence, including phone records and text messages between Kathy and me, as well as Tony's background information. We tried to prove that Tony's inappropriate relationship with Kathy, as well as his provocative behavior on the day of the incident, contributed significantly to Romeo's assault. My attorney told me that in the United States, it is not uncommon for pet dogs to attack people. The law generally determines whether the pet owner is liable based on the circumstances of the case. If it can be proved that the pet attacked in self-defense or to protect its owner, or that the attack was caused by the victim's fault, then the pet owner is usually not held fully responsible. This gives me some confidence, but I know that there is still a great deal of uncertainty about the outcome. The divorce lawsuit and Romeo's case have put a tremendous amount of stress in my life. I often felt anxious, lost sleep, and sometimes even despaired. But I knew that I had to be strong to face these challenges. After months of legal battles, Romeo's and my case finally came to an end. To my surprise, the judge accepted our defense completely. He found that Romeo's attack was motivated by his instinct to protect his owner, and that Tony's provocative behavior on the day of the incident also contributed to the attack. Therefore, the judge ruled that Romeo and I should not be held liable. When I heard the verdict, I felt a sense of relief. Not only did it mean that I wouldn't have to deal with a large settlement and possible criminal charges, but it also meant that I would finally be able to reunite with Romeo. For the past few months, Romeo has been in the care of a specialized dog training facility due to the demands of the case. I have only been able to keep track of him through videos and photos. Nevertheless, I know that he misses me as much as I miss him. The day I went to pick up Romeo, I was overwhelmed with emotion. I couldn't contain my tears when I saw him running towards me and rubbing against my leg in his familiar way. I hugged him tightly, feeling his warm fur and strong heartbeat. At that moment, I felt that all the pain and suffering was worth it. I knew that no matter what happened, Romeo would always be by my side. Starting over wasn't easy. After the divorce, I moved into a small apartment. Even though it was not as nice as our old house, Romeo and I adapted quickly to our new life. I started to focus more on my work and hobbies. I enrolled in a photography course to learn how to capture life's moments with my camera. On weekends, I take Romeo hiking or camping to enjoy the beauty and tranquility of nature. Gradually, I began to feel a sense of peace and satisfaction that I had not felt for a long time. I realized that despite the loss of my marriage, I had not lost the meaning of my life. On the contrary, this experience made me realize more clearly what is really important and what I really want to pursue. One day, I ran into an old friend in the park. We talked about my divorce and Romeo. He told me that Kathy's reputation had gotten really bad at school. A lot of people knew about her infidelity and started pointing fingers behind her back. There were rumors that she was even being hit on by other professors on campus. Under such pressure, Kathy finally decided to terminate her graduate studies and leave the school. And Tony, the once exalted professor, didn't get away with it. The school dismissed him for inappropriate behavior and damage to the school's reputation. It is said that he even had trouble finding a job at another school because no one wanted to hire a professor with questionable morals. I was not pleased to hear this news. Instead, I felt a deep sadness. I thought of the good times Kathy and I had, the dreams and vows we shared. But all of that had been lost in a moment of confusion on her part. She lost not only my love and trust, but also her career and reputation. And the irony of it all is that she chose betrayal when even a dog could understand the value of loyalty. But I know that I can't dwell on the pain of the past forever. Life must go on, and the possibilities for the future are endless. I now have a new beginning and the courage to pursue love and loyalty again. Sometimes I imagine that someday in the future, I will meet someone again who is worth committing my life to. We will build a home together and share the sweet and sour of life together. And Romeo, I believe he will love my new companion because he knows what true love and loyalty is. But until then, I've decided to enjoy the moment. I'm going to explore the world with Romeo and discover the beauty of each day. We'll go hiking together, we'll swim together, we'll watch the sun rise and set together. We'll make lots of good memories and fill in the pain of the past. I know that life is full of pain and frustration. Love may bring harm, marriage may break up. But as long as we always stick to our principles and believe in the power of love and loyalty, we will be able to get through it and find our own happiness. And now, Romeo and I, my most faithful companion, are marching hand in hand towards the future. We don't know what awaits us, but we have each other, we have courage, we have hope. That's all we need. Today, I share my story, a story of betrayal, pain, and ultimately renewal. I hope that my experience will give some insight to my friends who are facing similar dilemmas. Remember, don't let someone else's mistakes define your life. You have the right to pursue your own happiness and to start over. Believe in the power of love and loyalty, and be brave enough to embrace every possibility for the future. You are not alone. There is always someone who understands you and supports you. Together, let's embrace a new future with a smile on our faces. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.